Hi, and welcome to Tremco Live. This is a special holiday edition where we will be celebrating Happy Independence Day to all. We are pre-recording this and we will not have it live as we want to observe the holiday, which is this Friday, which we typically like to present at that day and that time. So I am Marcy Tyler, the Director of Building Science for Tremco, and I am with my co-host,
Paul Higginbotham. I'm the president of Tremco Construction Products Group, Marcy. Of course, a fine group of companies and brands all over the world.
Exactly. As always, we're always very excited to bring information to all of you and to represent those brands and those products, people, services all over the world, as Paul suggested. We always like to start off with some fun facts or some information that we found in the industry. And this time, since we're not talking about our industry per se, we're talking about the holiday itself. So I found this, which is on a website called Constitution Facts, and it talks about the story of the 4th of July. So many of you paying attention right now may not have realized that it is not, we think of July 4th as a day that represents the Declaration of Independence and the birth of the United States. However, it wasn't the day the Continental Congress decided to declare independence, but instead that happened on July 2nd. So July 4th was the day they basically got their paperwork done. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting fun fact there. As we talk about Independence Day, we reflect, right? So part of the holiday is about the birth of our country, but it's also a time of great reflection. Who do we aspire to be? How did we get here? And what do we need to do to move the country along? So Paul, I know you have some history in terms of your parents coming to the great America. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my parents grew up during the war in Europe. And so after the war, Marcy, of course, Europe was devastated. And they had always thought or aspired to immigrate to America. So in 1958, they immigrated here, and I was born shortly thereafter. So they're still here on their green card, and I'm a first-generation immigrant. So how about you, Marcy?
So my grandparents came here. So we last summer, my kids and I went to look to see if we could find my grandpa. And we did. We found he came over here as a teenager with some of his brothers. And we actually found, in the registry of when he came into Ellis Island. And by chance, we decided to go look to find pictures. They had pictures of all the ships that came over. And within 30 seconds, my son found it. It was meant to be for us to see that. And of course, my children's father, he came over as a young boy. I believe he was either, I think he was about 7 years old when he came over with his parents. So, first generation again, coming over and finding that American dream here in the U.S.
I think it's always interesting, Marcy. I get a chance to really travel the world too much, not enough lately, of course, but
right.
You travel all over the world, and this idea of the American dream remains very, very, very powerful and very vibrant to this day. So that's always, I just always find that remarkable that that it remains that powerful today.
Well, and in the world we live in today, of course, there's a lot going on. And we know that as we talk each week as an organization, we talk about how we are a work in progress. We've had a lot of companies come together in the last 12 to 18 months and how we strive to continue to be progressive in our work and in our communities. We thought it was timely and applicable to share a couple quotes from Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I think, the first quote on the top, Marcy, what's so to me noteworthy is Martin Luther King spoke often of the pursuit of the American dream, right? And that it hadn't yet been achieved, right? And then of course in the quote on the top, that all men are created equal, right? That is, those are the most, I would say, memorable or noteworthy words in the Declaration of independence, right? And there's certainly a lot of other text in that document, but those words are you know, they're the ones everybody associates with the founding of the country. And then of course the second quote very much, which speaks to, I have, you know, for Martin Luther King, right, very famously, I have a dream, and how strongly that's related to what America has aspired to be, right? Still remains a work in progress, and that's been very, very evident in the last couple months. So again, a very, very powerful quote that talks about being rooted in the American dream.
Yep, and the part of that with the difficulties of today and tomorrow, as we in our lives today are seeing the greatest change. It's occurring right now.
Yeah, it's remarkable, right, to be, you know, in the last couple months, the amount of change, the call for change, the hope or the aspiration, right, that this time it's different in terms of the change that's being sought. So very, very powerful times that we're living in, Marcy.
I think with our culture, the Tremco culture has always been about creating and driving the industry, and we've always wanted to empower and improve our people in the community in which they live and work.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've worked within RPM, so I'm going to say last 21 years. Early on, you know, when our current chairman, CEO, Frank Sullivan, who's the grandson of the founder that you see here, Frank C. Sullivan Sr., you know, we talked about what the strategy of RPM is. And this was probably, I think, Marcy, it might have been, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, pretty early on my tenure. And I think the epiphany was that our strategy is our culture. And if you're around RPM much, Marcy, right, you know, the value of 168 is used to describe that culture.
Yes, that was Frank C. Sullivan's favorite number. It was represented the total hours in a week. And he is quoted as saying it serves as a reminder that each of us has a limited amount of time and a duty to use this gift wisely and productively.
Yeah, and that remains the bedrock of the company that you and I work for. You know, we got to share last week the intersection of Tremco and RPM, right, and how that very much intersected through the man that you see there in that picture, Frank C. Sullivan, the founder of RPM. So I think, Marcy, you know, you and I have talked about that it's that it would perhaps be appropriate in our weekly get-togethers that we add perhaps a new slide that would be called Culture and Values, and we can share in that, not about products and services and systems, but we can share something about what's going on within Tremco and within RPM, where, you know, we so often talk about creating and driving our industry, but you see right there in that, you know, from the CEO, right on the top of that slide, Marcy, says, from the CEO standing together to create meaningful change. So I look forward, Marcy, with you to share what is some of that meaningful change that we are in the process of creating as Tremco and RPM.
Absolutely. That change with our people and our communities in which we live, we will be able to present that. So we all have a choice to be a part of that change that is occurring right now. So we'll take that for sure as something that we'll continue to share on a regular basis with everybody. Want to make sure that everyone has a very safe and healthy holiday this upcoming weekend. And up next, Paul, next Friday, it is our 10th broadcast. So we have something that we're going to share based on the number of 10. So
okay, so it's our 10-week anniversary, Marcy. We made it. We made it. You and I made it 10 weeks. Who knew?
Exactly. So we'll be sharing something special for that for next Friday. So once again, hope everyone has a very safe, healthy, happy family time this weekend, and enjoy and reflect on the independence of our country.
All right, we'll see you next Friday. Thanks, Marcy.
Thanks.